Welcome to It Pays to Fear God. I am Ewaenruwa Nomaren, and I want to discuss the topic, the eternal habitation of man. The Bible has made it clear that the righteous ones of God are going to be living in this earth. If you look at the Beatitudes, especially in Matthew chapter 5, verse 5, Jesus Christ told his disciples, "Blessed are the meek, for they shall inherit the earth." Jesus Christ was actually in some way quoting David the psalmist in Psalm chapter 37 verse 11, where he stated, "But the meek shall inherit the earth, and shall delight themselves in the abundance of peace." And King Solomon also told us in Proverbs chapter 2 and verses 21 and 22, "For the upright shall dwell in the land, and the perfect shall remain in it. But the wicked shall be cut off from the earth, and the transgressors shall be rooted out of it." Now, this talk is not necessarily going to be diving into why it is the earth we will be living in and not heaven. I've actually got 3 videos for you, linked in the description below, that you can check out to understand why it is the earth that is our habitation and not heaven. Rather, this video is going to be looking at how God intended the world to be when He created it, and how all of that changed, who changed it, etc. And of course, the process through which He wanted to fix that, and how what we are experiencing, seeing, etc. in our time contributes to that process, and how it will eventually turn out in the renovation and restitution of all things, so that the righteous can live in a spiritually clean environment. But before that, I just want to spark some interest and ask you a question that you might not have thought about in some time. And that question is, why did God allow Satan to tempt Adam and Eve and thereby take the world into his clutches? If God loved humanity, why didn't He just not let Satan do that? Protect us from his influence. This question, of course, will probably be answered in a video that we'll make in the future. But for now, go ahead and answer in the comment section below, and we'll love to see what you think about it. But of course, for now, let's just get into that subject, the eternal habitation of man. So, what was God thinking when He created this world? What did He intend? Well, for one, He wanted human beings to live in the world. The heavens, even the heavens, are the Lord's, but the earth hath He given to the children of men. Psalms chapter 115, verse 16. He wanted the world to be inhabited. If we read Isaiah chapter 45, verse 18, where Isaiah the prophet declared, "For thus saith the Lord that created the heavens, God Himself that forms the earth and made it. He hath established it. He created it not in vain. He formed it to be inhabited. I am the Lord, and there is none else." See also verse 12, which says something similar. He created the earth to abide forever, as King Solomon informed us in Ecclesiastes chapter 1, verse 4, where he said, "One generation passeth away, and another generation cometh, but the earth abideth forever." Furthermore, when God created this world, He wanted peace to reign. He wasn't interested in there being an economy, there being politics, there being standards that everybody's trying to meet, people getting mortgages. No, He just wanted you to generally live your life, enjoy yourself, and serve Him faithfully. That was what He wanted when He created this world. And when Adam and Eve were generally living that life, doing their thing, God, of course, was completely satisfied. However, things changed. Satan the devil came to Adam and Eve in Genesis chapter 3 from verses 1 to 6 and deceived them, changed their mentality or way of thinking so that they cared more about what they were thinking, their own abilities, than that of God and what God intended when creating them in the first place. And of course, once the world was under His sway, if we read 1 John chapter 5 verse 19, He did a lot of things with it. As the God of this world, if we read 2 Corinthians chapter 4 verse 4, He set up economies with various kingdoms that He had. He set up political systems so that there could be leaders with extreme power who He could use to rule the world. And He set up standards that political leaders would maintain, and everybody would try to seek for that. He didn't want people to just remember God and live boring lives in His sight. He wanted everything to be hyped up, so He created a lot of stuff that just made the world very pleasant in His sight, and He enjoyed that for a while. And speaking of that, When Jesus Christ was being tempted in Matthew chapter 4 verses 8 and 9, those kingdoms that Satan the devil was showing was that idea. Everything that was going on, the amount of glory that he was getting from all those arrangements, etc. And of course, in a smaller light, in the Israelite time, especially in 1 Samuel chapter 8 from verses 1 to 8 and verses 19 and 20, Satan the devil was kind of working with the Israelites at that time, which was why they decided that they wanted to be like other Gentile nations, resemble them, the glory that they had. So they appointed a king with God's intervention, and then they set up the nation, they built an economy for themselves, they built up standards that everybody was supposed to meet, and everything else like that. If we read Hosea chapter 13 verse 11, it's evident that God was not interested in the Israelites living that kind of life, but that was what happened. But of course, this is only important because the righteous ones of God lose out in the whole equation. They're not interested in money, fame, meeting Satan's standards. No, they just want to live their lives. But because they are not interested in such things, but the rest of the world is, they are now going on what we call the narrow road of salvation. They're not supported by many people. If you read Matthew chapter 7 in verses 13 and 14, they're persecuted. If we read 2 Timothy chapter 3 verse 12. And David the psalmist had spoken of this when he had to go through such things. In Psalms chapter 59 verse 3, where he said, "For lo, they lie in wait for my soul. The mighty are gathered against me. Not for my transgression, nor for my sin, O Lord." That was what went wrong. Satan the devil set all that up for the world, and if you look at the world today, that's exactly what's going on. Of course, God didn't like any of that, so he said, okay, I'm going to fix this. I want to make the world what I myself want it to be. I want to restore it. If you read Acts chapter 3 from verses 19 to 21, but specifically verse 21. And he said to do so, he would create a new heaven and a new earth, as we see in Revelation chapter 21 from verses 1 to 5, Isaiah chapter 65 verse 17, and 2 Peter chapter 3 verse 13, where St. Peter wrote in his letter, "Nevertheless we, according to his promise, look for new heavens and a new earth, wherein dwelleth righteousness." He wanted to remove war from the whole equation in this world. The reason why wars were fought, conflicts were built up, was because of what Satan the devil set up, not because of what God did, and God wanted to remove that. He maketh wars to cease unto the ends of the earth. He breaketh the bow and cutteth the spear in sunder. He burneth the chariot in the fire. Psalms chapter 46 verse 9. See also Isaiah chapter 2 verse 4 and chapter 60 verse 18. And of course, he made us pray the Lord's Prayer so that we could show interest in that plan. If we read Matthew chapter 6 in verses 9 and 10, "Thy kingdom come, thy will be done in earth as it is in heaven." That phrase is a summary of everything God wanted to do. He wanted to make the world the way he wanted it from the beginning. And of course, the kingdom that he would set up and has been set up in our time was what would move that process or idea forward. And of course, he chose his son to sort of champion that process, to defeat the kingdoms necessary to move that idea forward. If we read Jeremiah chapter 51 from verses 20 to 23, Psalms chapter 72 from verses 1 to 19, and Luke chapter 1 in verses 32 and 33. So that was what God intended, and that's how he wants to fix the world to be the way it was before. But everything that I've been saying so far is really just theory, so how is that actually fulfilling in our time? Well, let me tell you. If you look at Revelation chapter 19 from verses 11 to 21, it talks about how Jesus Christ would be king and he's defeating nations, weakening kingdoms and the rulers, etc. And we can see that political leaders don't have as much power as they used to. King Louis XIV, King Henry VIII, those kings, they had a lot of power, but now they don't. If you look at political leaders, presidents, prime ministers, etc., citizens riot against them, they criticize them, they expose what they do, they say all kinds of rubbish about them. You couldn't do that before, but you can do it now, and everybody will just say, well, he's expressing his opinion, and that's where it ends. Spiritual leaders are losing their power as well, and this is coming from what we call the abomination of desolation. If we read Daniel chapter 9 verse 27, chapter 11 verse 31, and Matthew chapter 24 in verses 15 and 16. The abomination of desolation is the political system that God has allowed to set itself up in this world to take away that spirituality that not only made an alliance with political forces in that time, but didn't represent what God wanted, as we can see in the parable of the wheat and tares in Matthew chapter 13 from verses 24 to 30. The tares were that system that came in from Satan the devil that was not supposed to be there when Christianity was emerging and setting itself up to be popular. These spiritual leaders in our time are now trying to stay alive by just approving everything that science, technology, development, research, etc. approves, because if they know if they continue to stay distant, they're just going to fall down, because everybody is going to be running after what the beast sets out for them and say, who is like unto the beast? And who is able to make war with him, as we see in Revelation chapter 13 from verses 1 to 4, but specifically verse 4. And if you look at Isaiah chapter 24 and verses 21 and 22, it describes this: the kings of the earth that had oppressed people, made people sad, made people not want to worship God, etc. Those people are being punished for their actions. That is essentially what's happening in this world. And if you look at the news, newspapers, etc., we can see that that is exactly what's happening. And of course, that is on what's being defeated. There are also stuff that are coming up. An egalitarian concept or way of looking at life is really starting to build itself up, especially in the West. If you look at the countries in Scandinavia, certain countries in North America, you can see that they care more about society. There's a lot of charities that exist trying to help and improve the well-being of society. They care about improving the quality of life for people who can't get a good future for themselves. But if you move to other countries and other continents, there's still kind of the rich get richer, the poor get poorer, those who have money are everything, those who don't have money don't deserve to be living. Those countries still exist, but the world is gradually moving in that direction of not only an egalitarian system, but a system where people care about each other and everybody works together to create a good life for themselves. Kind of like the Good Samaritan in Luke chapter 10 from verses 25 to 37. And of course, this is fulfilling places like Psalm chapter 46 verse 9 and Isaiah chapter 2 verse 4, which clearly talk about how God is going to be making sure that peace reigns in this world and people stop thinking about how to acquire more wealth and build themselves in the economy, invest in the stock market, etc. So that is what's going on in this world that is really pushing that plan forward. But how will the world be in the future? Well, the Bible has given us some details, if we look really closely, about how the future will look like. For example, animals will not be against us, snakes will be playing with human beings and so on. If you read Isaiah chapter 11 from verses 6 to 9, peace will certainly reign in this world. Every man will sit under his vine and under his fig tree, and none shall make him afraid. If you read Micah chapter 4 verse 4. Then there will also be no more sickness, because there will be no more sin. Sickness is a product of sin, and when sin is removed, sickness goes away with it. As Isaiah the prophet promised us in Isaiah chapter 33 verse 24, where he stated, "And the inhabitants shall not say, I am sick. The people that dwell therein shall be forgiven their iniquity." There will be no economy either. No stock market, no big global economy that crashes from time to time. That's not going to be there, as Jesus Christ implicitly made us to know in Luke chapter 16 verse 9, where he said in the parable, "Make to yourselves friends of the mammon of unrighteousness, that when ye fail, they may receive you into everlasting habitations." The mammon of unrighteousness is money, and that failure that he was talking about was when the economy eventually doesn't exist, When money inflates itself out of existence, then those who do not invest their entire lives and hearts in money will be remembered by God and Jesus Christ when the world is not about economies anymore. And most importantly, the righteous ones of God will not be persecuted anymore. As Ezekiel the prophet said in Ezekiel chapter 34 verse 28, the righteous ones will not be a prey to the wicked. They will not be sought for, their life being sought for, as Elijah would say in 1 Kings chapter 19. And if you look at Isaiah chapter 58 verse 14, it even describes it as a situation where the righteous ones of God will be inhabiting the high places of the earth and other stuff like that. Then shalt thou delight thyself in the Lord, and I will cause thee to ride upon the high places of the earth, and feed thee with the heritage of Jacob thy father. For the mouth of the Lord hath spoken it. And like I said before, every man will sit under his vine and under his fig tree, and none shall make them afraid. Once again, Micah chapter 4 verse 4. There will be no politics, leadership, governments, etc. No, that will be a heap of ruins. If you read Isaiah chapter 3 in verses 6 and 7. The concept of people ruling over others will be rejected universally. That idea won't be seen as righteous and good and godly any longer, because of how the leaders that are going to be in this world will be nothing, as we see in Isaiah chapter 34 verse 12, and will make society hate that entire idea of there being a government. In fact, people are just not going to like it anymore, because God is moving people's hearts to what their future is eventually going to be. Now, of course, the righteous ones of God who will be inheriting all of these rewards that I've been talking about cannot inherit it without something called a resurrection. Most of the righteous ones of God who will be inheriting that are going to be dead once God has finished his work in the world, and they're going to be taken back up, as in like they're going to be resurrected so that they can inhabit that world. Marvel not at this, for the hour is coming, in the which all that are in the grave shall hear his voice, and shall come forth. They that have done good unto the resurrection of life, and they that have done evil unto the resurrection of damnation. John chapter 5 and verses 28 and 29. And Job expressed extreme hope in this event in Job chapter 19 and verses 25 and 26, where he proudly declared, For I know that my Redeemer liveth, and that he shall stand at the latter day upon the earth. And though after my skin worms destroyed his body, yet in my flesh shall I see God. But before I conclude, I just want to quickly review who are the people who will be exactly inheriting all these awards. What does it mean to be righteous? Well, it means to be meek, and to be meek has to do with you being humble before God. You being grateful for the fact that he called you, and you work willfully and lovingly towards achieving his purpose. The meek will he guide in judgment, and the meek will he teach his way, as David the psalmist said in Psalms chapter 25 verse 9. When we humble ourselves before God, he will guide us peacefully. He will make sure that we do not fall into the temptations of Satan the devil. If we read 2 Peter chapter 2 verse 9, not that we won't fall into them, it's just that he will deliver us out of them. He won't let us fall into temptations that will completely ruin our faith. If we read 1 Corinthians chapter 10, verse 13, he will guide us into the way everlasting, as David the psalmist would commonly pray for, for example, in Psalms chapter 139 and verses 23 and 24. When we are humble before him, we allow him to guide us. We are not trying to show God where we should be going, how we should be worshiping him the way most people in Christianity do. We, as true righteous ones of God, by God's grace, will listen to what God has to tell us and let God direct the path that we should go. As James chapter 4 verse 6 and many other places in the Bible tell us, God resists the proud but gives grace unto the humble. We want to be a part of those humble ones, because they will be the ones that are exalted, as God promised us through Isaiah the prophet in Isaiah chapter 57 verse 15, where he told us, For thus saith the high and lofty one that inhabiteth eternity, whose name is holy. I dwell in a high and holy place, with him also that is of a contrite and humble spirit, to revive the spirit of the humble, and to revive the heart of the contrite one. I hope everything that I have just said may inspire you and may make you hopeful at what God is doing in our time. And just to sum all of that up, I have a tune to play for you that some of you might enjoy. I hope you enjoyed this subject as much as I did, and I want you to remember it is the righteous ones of God who will inherit the eternal habitation of man in the future, because it is them who will avoid what the wicked tell them and stick with what God has provided them. He that walketh righteously and speaketh uprightly, he that despiseth the gains of oppressions, and shaketh his hands from holding bribes, and stoppeth his ears from hearing of blood, and shutteth his eyes from seeing evil, he shall dwell on high. His place of defense shall be the munition of rocks. Bread shall be given him, his waters shall be sure. God bless you. Have a great day.